Today. This is Josh and Maria.
Hello.
We're going to be interviewing you for my Family Foundations class. I'm just going to ask you guys a few questions. Just before I ask you the big questions, how many years you guys been married?
22.
22
years of wedded goodness.
Excellent.
Yes.
And how many kids do you guys have?
3.
Cool. You passed the polygram. That's good. So we'll just get right to it. Why did you guys get married?
Go first.
Now you first.
We got married because, I wanted to get married because I wanted to have, my goals were real simple in life. I wanted to be a husband, I wanted to be a father, and I wanted to teach as well. So you can't be a husband without getting married. So it's like, you can't be a husband without getting married. That's the definition of husband. You're someone's betrothed. That's why.
That is very true.
And because I didn't want to ever have to wake up in the morning without her next to me, have her as my wife. I really believe in marriage. I feel like marriage really adds value, especially when you bring value with you and whoever you're getting married to obviously brings value with her. That value plus value is more value. That's me.
I mean, pretty much, honestly, the same. I have a family. Josh, of course. And just, I wanted to have a life with someone, but not just with anyone, obviously, without getting married or whatever. So, and I was very purposeful about that.
Awesome. So over the years, what has kept your marriage alive?
Well, Jesus, right from the beginning, it was Jesus. It literally was Jesus at the center. And when we were somewhere along the line, either just before we got married, I wrote a little poem. And part of the poem was about how, the end of it was about how great a life with Jesus as the center could be. And so when Jesus is the center, not only the foundation, but the center of everything that you do, it really, you give yourself the best opportunity to have good fruit and to live a life of joy and peace, because that's the way God scripts stuff. That's the way He does stuff. And when you hang your whole life on Him and immerse Him right there in the middle, that avoids, it helps you avoid consistently, not perfectly, obviously, but being selfish and committing adultery and being a moron, all those other things that come off of. So if you're treating your spouse and looking at her through the way God sees her, that really puts you in a driving in a good direction.
And he was very perfect example, honestly, in that. It's like I learned, like I grow so much in how he treats me, lovingly, like Christ would. And so it made me like, oh, so that's how, and so it was kind of like coming alongside was good for me. Otherwise I would have been like, this is too hard, you know what I mean? So, but it wasn't, knowing that he was an example and he's very much good at that.
And being naked a lot is good. That helps keep it alive for all you young people.
So what are some of the things, if you look back on your marriage, what are like some of the best things that have been about your marriage that if you had to give advice to your children, you would say you got to do this, you got to.
It really is connected to the last question, is keep Jesus first. And one of the things that I always try and look at is look at my wife and see her the way God sees her. The Bible talks about the golden rule and treat others as you would want to be treated, and that's in there for a reason. There's just a lot of stuff that God could have said, and that's one thing He wrote down on purpose in the Word, was treat other people the way you want to be treated. And so that's one of the things, to be purposeful about that and try and make that consistently the way that you are. And that's one of the things that I would tell my kids is, look at the person across from you, the person you choose to marry, and love them on purpose. Love them when they act right according to you, or when they don't act right according to you. Be on purpose about how you treat the other person, and make sure that you know, the respect that you want back if you give it first. You know, I always think about how do you get an unloving world to love you? You go first. You know, and sometimes in marriage, somebody's got to go first when things aren't going well, or if you feel like, all right, there's some tension, or if there's been an argument, somebody's got to go first if there's going to be an end to it. And if both of you are trying to be first in, you know, being loving and being to the end of it, and then it's going to be good.
That's very true.
That's one thing.
That's good.
Yeah, do that.
Now, if you kind of the reverse of the question is, if you were looking back on your marriage, what are things you would do differently, or what advice would you give your kids to not do?
I don't know. I feel like if you give advice and say, okay, don't do this, and because you're gonna make mistakes, and you know, sometimes you win and sometimes you learn. You know, there's a whole book about that, and so there's a lot of learning and a lot of growth that comes out of mistakes. But if I could say, hey, listen, avoid this pitfall, it would be wise with your money. You know, and one of the things that we always thought about is we want more than we want to pile sacks of cash, we want to have the ability to not have money hold us prisoner. And so if we want to have an experience, because having experiences in life as a family are important, and not being held back because you haven't been smart with your money consistently, again, not perfectly. If that's one thing I would tell my kids, to say, make sure you're being wise, and the things that you want to do later, make sure that your today's self is creating habits and that will allow your later on self to be planted in the things that you're shooting at. You know?
Yeah, and in the midst of that, it's to enjoy life as well, and not have to necessarily say, oh, we're taking a trip to, you know, Ireland or whatever. You know what I mean? But like, there's so many things in life that you can just enjoy it, and that we live in that each and every single day. You know, it hasn't been like, oh, I wish, you know, this and I wish that. It's like we live life, we have purpose, we get fun, because you're in charge. It's really important.
Now, if you could go back, and this is kind of the last question, if you could go back to before you guys got married, what advice would you kind of give in that, you know, engaged kind of stage? What advice would you give to yourself? Or how is that season of life? Is there things that you would maybe not do, or
About marriage?
done different, like premarital counseling kind of thing, or how would you have, before you went into that phase of marriage?
Well, I would tell people who are getting ready to get married is to not listen to everybody's advice.
That is very
Because
true.
you will have a million people, hey, it's this one, it's that, it's this, and you know, I'll get ready, it's gonna be hell. Well, no, they're stupid, and that's not correct.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you thought, and if you fielded and attached yourself to all the advice that everybody gets, you would literally be a schizophrenic. And so, because it's coming from all over the place, and again, it goes back to one of the first questions is, build your life with your spouse, when you have kids, when you earn money, and how you deal with it, all the things leading up to marriage. Let the Word of God be the foundation, be the deciding voice, because you can ask 100 people advice about marriage, and you'll get 100 different answers, and some will be good, and some will be total crap. And so, one of the things I would tell my kids is be discerning and really know how to hear, and as you field stuff, number one, look at the person who's giving you that advice and say, okay, do I want my life or my marriage to mirror theirs? If not, you know, leave it aside, and maybe think about how much of what they're saying is true, and you know, keep that and check out the ways, because and to really expect marriage to be great, and you know, so many times I hear people talk about, oh, marriage is going to be a bummer, or it's so tough, it's work all the time. We were just talking about this the other day, how marriage is work, you know. And I guess I don't really view it that way. I've never once thought, wow, this is work, you know, where this is just how you do it. You know, I love my wife. My job is not necessary to make her happy. but it's to love her according to what the Word says. And it's nowhere do I find in the Word that says make your wife happy. You know, the happiness comes from in here, not from out here. And my job is to love her. And if I'm focusing on that every day and continuing to grow as a man and just to know God better every single day, then I will be exactly what she needs and what God puts two people together. And really, when you pick who you want to be with, because I'm not a big believer that God's out there, hanging. All right, Charlie, this one's for you. I'm going to put her over here on the hook for you for when you get there. I don't really believe that God puts the desires of our hearts in our hearts and says, pick. I'm going to give you wisdom. I'm going to give you guidance. You pick who you want to be with. He gives us some general counsel, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Some general counsel about that. Just to not listen to everyone, to expect marriage to be awesome and good every day, and to know that there's going to be challenges coming up through the year. Because if you pick from the top of the tree at the beginning of your marriage, like I did, it'll be great all the way through. If you grab a hold of a screaming yenta, you're going to deal with that all the way through as well. Just saying. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
I forgot what the question was.
No, that was good.
Okay.
Excellent.
Oh yeah, I think that.
No, I mean it's really true. It's really true to be purposeful about it and have your life the way with God's help be it. Like no one said to us like, oh, this is how you guys should do your marriage or anything like that. We just figured it out with with God in the center of it for real.
Yeah.
So
It's a great point.
it's
Because there's no formula. You can pick up books and here's this formula, and if you try and pick a formula, there's no formulas in the people business. And because you try and grab a hold of a formula, and say, okay, it's got to work like this. If it happens outside the perimeters of your formula, then what are you gonna do then? And to just be in life together. That's why you get married. I want to be in life with this woman every single day for the rest of my life. She has things about her that just fire me up on the inside in a good way. Things that some things that annoy me. I can't really think of any right now, but really, there really are those.
there are things
I don't know. I'm sure there's something. She's fairly excellent, and I always say all the time, perfect. I got the perfect wife, meaning not that she's perfect, but that she's perfect for me. She helps. She's like the grout in my bricks. So as I'm going to help me be stronger in every day and challenge me in areas and stuff like that.
It's really fun. It's really fun. There are so many things like in life you could say like, oh, there's things and that's things and whatever, but it's like it outweighs of all the awesome things that you do build together as a husband and wife.
Well, thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Charlie.
This was excellent.
The end.